Recording. Hi.
Hello.
This is Osiris with the Cover City News, Ankh Entertainment, and Stones in the Color of Rare blog. We have, oh my gosh, we have the wonderful pleasure of interviewing the incomparable, the very famous Jennifer Leitham. Now, hey Jennifer, say hi to the audience.
Hello,
Wave.
audience. Hello, Osiris.
And for those of you who have not heard of Jennifer, Jennifer is a very famous left-handed, one of the rarities of playing a bass, upright bass, and that's what she has made her fame on. And I am doing a follow-up actually on her documentary I Stand Corrected. Jennifer, as many of you know, was born in a misassigned kind of representative of a body known as somebody named John. We don't know who he is anymore, and so now Jennifer has made a complete, fully transition into from John to Jennifer. And so what we want to talk about is how this transition has affected your career, what you are now doing in your career, how you see yourself making waves for other people that would like to open doors and they want to get into the industry and they feel afraid, or some of the stigmas that might arise against people that have done this and they're musicians and people as famous as yourself.
Wow, that's a mouthful. Yeah, the idea that I was once John, or that it's hard to talk about things like that, and that you never were that person, and you're sort of living a characterization of yourself and what you present to the public, but you're always the same person.
Absolutely.
I didn't change basically in any way. I'm still the same person I've always been. Just in any only way I've changed is in how I present myself to the world, and the world perceives me differently now. That's the big difference, but I'm the same person. I always have been.
Yeah.
How has it affected my career? Well, it's affected my career.
In what ways? Tell us. I want to know.
Well, the jazz world is a very creative world in the way of the art of it all, but in the way that the musicians have grown up, and in the way that a lot of the audience that follows jazz think, it's a very socially conservative world. And it's interesting, and the jazz was one of the first forms of the music to be integrated, to actually, in terms of race equality at least, embrace some diversity in race and accept the different races playing together, and even now it's a melting pot for music from around the world, and I think that's all great and healthy. But you know, when you're dealing with the world that I deal with in the commercial aspects of it, and trying to present yourself to the public and be hired to play in venues and playing in festivals and things, there's still barriers to people who are different. And is that different more nowadays in terms of sexuality, in terms of their gender presentation, or maybe their sexual preference? They're two different subjects, but they both get equally, what's the word? Shunned, basically. Yeah. Shunned is you don't really get much of a chance, especially if you're vocal about it. I know quite a few people that are making their way in the world of the jazz music, and are maybe they're not the norm as far as their sexual preference or whatever, but they keep quiet about it. And my own transition was so public that there's no way that I could be quiet. So I've just kept putting one foot in front of the other. My way of dealing with it has been mostly to really work hard on trying to be a better player, a better musician, and that's yielded some fruit. I think I have a stronger following for my own music than I've ever had. When I book my band, people come to hear us play. It's funny, I just started a fundraising campaign on Indiegogo to try to raise money for my next projects. And,
wow.
The first week we're already a quarter of the way to the goal.
Oh, so, wow, that's great.
So there are people out there that are very supportive. They may not be the people that are the power brokers in the entertainment industry, but they are people that certainly support me and what I do.
Well, the face of the entertainment industry is changing so rapidly. that the power brokers are the people that now used to be on the corner selling CDs. Some of those very same people are now your big power brokers, because they've had the experience of being in a community that the corporate world doesn't understand. What I want to also ask you, in terms of your playing, I know that you play with your left hand, and I know you had some difficulty being trained, or you had to learn, because you initially said in your documentary that you were right-handed.
Well, I'm ambidextrous, but I throw a ball better with my right hand.
Okay. But you play better with your left hand?
Well, you play with both hands, really. It's just which hand feels comfortable
on the
fingerboard. And in my case, my right hand always felt comfortable on the fingerboard. And my logic was very simple in the beginning. The right hand does more work. It's more physical. The grip strength is very important. And I had some developed grip strength already in my right hand. And I think it helped me, in the beginning at least, to help me progress faster. And now I don't really think it matters. But I've been doing it for so long.
For so long, I know. And I love the part of your documentary. For those of you out there that have never seen the documentary, I stand corrected. It is a wonderful story of a transition from yourself to yourself. And it's also a wonderful story about the background of Jennifer and the music that she shared with the world. I particularly found great interest in Doc Severinson's reply. I said, now that's a pro. A pro is going to say, we don't care about what you do in your personal life. Can you play that bass? That's what we're concerned with. So
came through for me.
I love that they stood for you. And then when you were going to play the joke of coming out as Audrey Hepburn, I'm like, wow, I didn't know she was a fan of Audrey Hepburn. That would have been hysterical.
I am a fan of Audrey. In fact, I have a big portrait of her next to my bed in my bedroom. That's how crazy I am about her.
Yeah, but with the dark hair, with your hair a little bit the way it is, you do have that kind of Hepburny, that kind of Hepburny kind of look. And so,
well, Andrea Meyerson that did the film, she produced and directed.
Yeah.
She did a great job in tracking Doc down.
Oh yeah, to find the interview.
That was like the
How did you track all of those people down? That was one of my questions. How did you get all of those people?
When Andrea and I got our heads together about doing this, I mean, I gave her a list of all the people I thought might have something worthwhile to say, and there were a lot of different people. A lot of people that didn't make it to the final cut in the film.
Oh wow!
Some of them were exceedingly positive, wonderfully positive, and some of them were people that I knew were going to give her a different take on it, you know. And most of those folks didn't agree.
They didn't agree with what? The way she did?
You know,
oh wow!
But the ones
any particular reason, or they just didn't want to be on camera?
Good question. Yeah, I think they didn't want to be on camera.
Some musicians are shy; they just don't want to be interviewed.
It's possible, but other people don't want to be necessarily attached to the subject matter of
whatever the interview is about.
I mean,
yeah,
it's a lot of stigma to get over. Anyway, but the people that Andrea did interview, she had done extensive interviews with me prior to filming, before we started filming, and basically I laid out the timeline of the story for her, and then I gave her resources to find the people I was talking about, or the events, or if there was video, whatever. I mean, I knew where it all was, or where most of it was. Some of it she had to track down, but I knew of its existence at least. So, and then she put it all together to make the film.
Now, how do you have time to date and to do your music and to do all of the other things that girls do when they're making music and they're being creative?
Oh my goodness, have time to date. I don't really date that much.
Yeah.
I've had...
Because you don't have the time, you don't want to, or you just...
The right person hasn't really come along. Well, I don't mind going out casually and hanging out and getting to know people. I think that's great. And I've fallen for a few people and didn't work out. But
that's all of us.
Roll it out in the future. I'm really career oriented, and I've had some incredible relationships in my life. One in particular that didn't work out, that really hurts. And maybe I'm a little bit damaged goods, you know, that I don't want to commit myself to anything other than right now than to my own art and projects. You know?
Do you think that, I know that you were married, and I know you were married for quite some time,
Right.
like most people, they get married for quite some time and then something happens to break up the relationship.
Yeah.
Some people stay married 25, 30 years and break up, and I never understand, wow, what happened?
Well, we were very tight for 15 years, and I talk about this in the film. That's why most people don't want to talk about these kind of things. But
No, I want you to talk about this.
We had 15 really great years. I wouldn't trade it for anything. It hit the rocks, unfortunately, but that's, a really sad thing for me. I'm sure it is for her too.
Well, let me ask you, do you think that given the climate of the times in 2014 and back then when you were married and these things were still sort of new, they're way more prevalent now.
Great point.
Do you think that that would have changed the nature of how your relationship would have turned out?
It's difficult to put the context of the times now in the context of those days. I think we were both scared to death, and I'm sure we both knew now, or knew then what we know now, that we would have had a chance. We would have a lot of people. They stay together through the whole trial, and they're stronger for it. And some don't. It's like anybody else in life.
That's what I'm saying. It's like any other religion. Do you know how many people don't get along? Whatever. It doesn't really matter. But it's what I found unfortunate is that love. We watch Hollywood movies and love conquers all things.
Yeah.
And, blah blah, and wherever you go to, love will conquer all. And